So I had this incredible mentor in my life after all of these tragedies with my brother and my mother and my sister-in-law and my uncle. Her name was Crosby Bonsall, and she was a very famous children's book author. And she started the And I Can Read series for Harper's. Crosby got in the car one day and she said to me, "Sweetsies, you need to be a talk show host." And I said, "Crosby, you are absolutely crazy." And 2 weeks later, I had this meeting that I had to go to for this freelance gig that I was working on. And I walk into the meeting, and the meeting is over, and this gentleman said to me, who's now dead, the late Tom Starr from Radio America. Tom Starr said to me, "You need to be on the radio. What are you doing on Sunday morning?" I said, "Sleeping in alone." And he said, No, I mean it. What are you doing on Sunday morning?" And I started doing radio that Sunday morning. And the guy that he partnered with me that morning said, "You're a shrill. You've been doing this for years." And I said, "No, I haven't ever done this. I've only been in advertising on the other side. I've never been in this." And that's, so I always say to people, you may not know what you want in life, but be aware of the signs because they are there. And this became my passion, but it was not my passion to begin with. And it was not even an idea that I had.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. Yeah, I'm Bernie Beitman, and I love these things. I look for patterns. Occasionally, I run across a very strange pattern in the form of a human being. And you're seeing her right there on the screen waving at you. We've met several times on her radio and then more recently on her video podcast. And her mother is quite a character, and you're going to find out that she has inherited some of that character in herself. We're going to talk about coincidences. She's pretty funny, as you'll notice, and we'll get into stories that she has, some of which are not fun ones, and some of them which are definitely fun ones. She's got a bunch of them. She's got a bunch of them. So who is?
I do.
I do. That sounds like the beginning of some song in a musical.
Yeah, sounds it.
So let formally introduce Frankie Boyer. She's in Boston, in case you can't tell by her accent when it comes around. She's
I hope not. I hope not, because I've worked really hard to not have that accent. I don't say park the car and have it yet.
You know something, when you listen, which I can do, it's kind of an underlying current, and it sneaks out.
It is. I can't help it. It does sneak out. I've worked really hard, though, really hard in my life to not have it, but it does come through.
What you've done is go down south and headed for a New York sound. So anyway, she's a seasoned radio host, author, speaker, and advocate for health and wellness. A very passionate woman, you'll see. She loves to help others live a healthier life, and it's evident through her very long-running holistic health show, which has been a fixture on WCRN 8:30 a.m. Boston for many years.
Yes.
And Frankie, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming back and reversing our roles.
Yes, this is so fun, Doc. It really is. One of the things that I love about the work that you're doing is that we as a society dismiss so many things that happen, and we're not conscious and we're not really aware of those things that happen, the coincidences, the phone ringing after you just were thinking about somebody or bumping into somebody. there's tremendous significance in those coincidences, and as you said, some good, some bad. And I'm delighted to be here.
And I'm glad you're a carrier of that idea that there's some more than just simple value to them. And we'll see what value our audience gets from hearing your stories about
Yes.
meaningful coincidences. So you just had a recent one, and the recent ones are kind of fun. So why don't you tell us that story?
Um, okay. So I it wasn't fun. I just had a guest on my show, and it wasn't fun, but I thought it was just an extraordinary um situation. So he was a young boy, and his father and mother were divorced, and his father dropped him off with his two siblings, dropped him off, and that was the last time he saw his dad, and for years. And the dad never shared why he stopped picking them up, why he stopped coming, why he stopped calling. He never shared any of that. And this poor kid was so devastated by the abandonment. And the mother remarried in a very short amount of time. And the new husband decided to adopt all of the kids. So there was like the Brady Bunch in the house. And in high school, he was working at the country club doing custodial work, and he was sweeping when all of a sudden there was a horrific accident. You could hear the impact of a car screeching, and he looked out and the car had wrapped itself around a telephone pole, and he ran over. And back then there were no cell phones, so he had an old-fashioned payphone and called 911 and called I think back then it was just zero, and called for help, and they came. And the man kept looking at him and looking and looking, and one of his eyes was hanging. And I mean, the man was just in a terrible shape. And they took the man away in the ambulance, and they looked at his ID, and they said his name, and this young man knew immediately it was his dad, his biological father. And it took him years later to find out that it was not his father's doing, but he was an addict, and he was having terrible problems with addiction, with drugs. He was a vet, and his life was a mess. And it took years later, but Alan found out through journals that it was a psychiatrist that recommended that he not talk to the kids and had nothing to do with them. And it was just that simple. But what are the chances that night of him seeing his biological dad like 10 years later
In such a circumstance.
in such a circumstance? Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think about that, Frankie?
Well, I'm not surprised, because circumstances and things that happen to us, um nothing surprises me at this stage. At this stage in my existence, it really doesn't. It just really doesn't.
It's we're talking more than about surprise. I mean, one of the things that happens to me is I'm not so surprised anymore. I'm curious,
Yes.
because these are low probability events. The kid's working at a place where his father crashes into a pole right out in front where he's working, and he's the one who calls for help. Um, so that's a low probability event. That's
Yeah.
that set of circumstances, and it's an awful way to like see his father with his eye falling out like that. So it's the curiosity that makes you as well as other people interested. Is like, what are the chances? People say that quite often,
What are the
and
chances? Yeah, yeah.
and what that means is it's a low probability event. That's what people saying.
Hmm.
What are the
Hmm.
chances? The chances are low, is what that answer to that question. I'm just reading, when you have a question that you know the answer, it's no longer a question. So the question, what are the odds, is that you already have the answer to that, and you're going to say the odds are low. I'm asking you, as just a human being observing and hearing this story. Besides that, I'm not asking you if you were surprised, but you were curious enough and you remembered it enough and you thought that it might fit what we're talking about here, synchronicity. What does it do to you, that particular story?
Well, it makes me sad. It's a sad story. It's not a nice story. It's a sad story. And then as I found out more about the man and his dad and their relationship, uh, he was also a poet, and all of these things started to come out about his dad. But he was in therapy for 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 so many years because he could not deal with the abandonment of the dad never coming, and he thought it was all him, and to find out it was the a stupid psychiatrist, God bless him, that said, I think it would be better for you to just not have anything to do with those kids. I mean, who says that?
Well, that's part of what I'm asking you about, is the range of your responses, and you're having a negative reaction to this psychiatrist and his advice.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And
I mean,
we could
there
say it
there
makes.
are there are toxic relationships in life. And yes, there are times, and believe me, I know because I've had many of them, and I'm enmeshed in a horrific situation today as we speak. But for a psychiatrist to help someone who is addicted, and I know this is a lot of years ago. The good news is that this this man did find therapy. This man did find a redemption, started to volunteer. He's a very famous trial attorney, and he volunteers helping kids today pro bono. That's what he does. And so he's had three marriages. He said this third one is a charm. He met her when they were in high school, and he said, I still work really hard at keeping this relationship because my ability to connect was really fuzzy because the stepfather was an abusive jerk. The man that adopted him was so abusive. He wasn't allowed to sit in the living room. They weren't allowed to eat with the parents. I mean, crazy rules. And he would beat the crap out of them if they broke the rules. I mean, abuse all the way around him. So,
I think
yeah,
you're including the psychiatrist in the abuse pattern.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, and it's one thing for the stepfather, but what you're bringing up is, I think, very important for our viewers and our listeners, that sometimes you get somebody who's supposed to help you and they don't. They do not help you. And as a good friend of mine said yesterday when we were having dinner, a lot of therapists are crap. Um,
yeah.
and and there is no warning label that
Uh,
says, uh,
you're going to get screwed for life with this practitioner. Don't go.
yeah, I got one in the review things when I got one where somebody said something like that, and I hardly remember the person, but it was like years ago, and it was like, it's startling to get that kind of review when there were a lot of positive ones too. So you get some people who with whom a psychiatrist or a therapist does not match. That happens where it's not a good fit. And I've certainly had that experience with people and my own therapy as well. But this goes beyond what we're talking about here. There's this guy was abandoned because the psychiatrist told him to abandon his son, his father, and that abandonment thing is so close to all of us. And
Yeah.
I wonder, as we talk about you and abandonment yourself, because
Yes.
if you would talk about some stories that have some coincidences around abandonment, please do.
Um, I think that I met someone a few years ago on my best friend's birthday and my nephew's birthday. And the irony is that both of them died within a few months of each other, my best friend and my nephew. And they shared the same birthday. And um, I met someone on that date. So that to me is that's uh, a very entangled, I think, story.
Well, it's a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of starting to date somebody, and the second date is going out on a hike, and we go to a place I've been to many times, but this time there were a lot of ticks around, and she got three of them in what she called her triangle, which she found while she was in the bathroom. And I got a bunch, and that was not a good omen for our relationship, I
Not
thought
at
right
all.
away.
Yeah.
Not at all when that happens. And so, and it turned out not to be. I mean, it turned out to have been problematic. It was suggestive of something negative. So this dying on the same day, same birthday, suggests a negative outcome for the person that you met then.
Yeah. And it turned out to be very negative. So my chance encounter with this man was at a Verizon store. And I was, and it was right after COVID, and I was getting my phone broke, and I had to go back to the store. They said, no, 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 we fixed it the day before or 2 days before. And then of course, it wasn't fixed. I had to go back to the store. And he was there because he was leaving on a trip to go to San Diego and needed um, something. I forget if he was upgrading his iPad or his phone or something. And he was sitting next to me. And he started talking about San Diego, and I said, I love San Diego. And the next thing you know, we started talking, and all of the signs, every single one of the signs were stay away from this man. And that day, for whatever reason, my brain didn't connect that. It just didn't connect it. And so I did get involved with him. And it turns out that he is probably one of the lowest. There are many levels. I was once an alcoholism counselor, and there are many levels, many levels of alcoholism. There are the weekend binge drinkers. There are people that need a drink every day but still function perfectly. And there are those that are on the street because they cannot um, function. And he is one of those, the street kind. And everything about his world when I met him was very different than what his past life was, which was a very successful man. I saw the shell of a successful man. I saw the shell, the physical shell of a very successful man. But what it turned out to be is a really messed up man. Still to this day, choosing not to get the right help and still on the street.
And he's the guy who went to the party with you?
What
The
party?
the party with the two people who have the same birthday, and then
No, no, no. There was no party, but it just so happens that my best friend, the day I met him,
oh, the
was
day
my
you
nep
met him.
the day I met him was my nephew's birthday and my best friend's birthday. And fast forward, they both wanted me out of the relationship. They were adamant about it, and I tried so hard to help this man because that's my issues in life is trying to help. I'm just always trying to help Debbie do good. And they both, before they passed, and they both died rather suddenly. My nephew died very suddenly. He was very young, and my friend had a glioblastoma, but she was on top of it and lived in Australia. And anyway, it's the anniversary of her death recently, last week, and my nephew's death anniversary was just a few weeks ago as well. So, but they both were born uh, the two closest people in my life I lost within a few months, and their birthdays were the same. And it was the day that I met this man.
And it was the day you met his man, this
Yeah,
man,
this man. Yeah,
and you saw the signs,
I did. I saw the signs. They were very clear. I saw them.
eh, and you went ahead.
I went
be-
ahead.
And you went ahead, from what I'm seeing, is because you have this drive to help, particularly alcoholics.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was something it was my first job in life that I had. My very first job. My
Well,
real job in life was an
okay,
alcoholism counselor.
and
So
you
yeah.
want and you always want to do well at what you're
Yeah.
doing. I mean, you try
Yeah.
to do this. It's your first job, so you try to do well. And this guy walks in, and I'm saying it activated that specific
Probably.
help need,
Probably. It
and
did.
and,
It did.
and then the
And I did
overall.
help him. And I did help him. And I told him that I said, I love me too much to get involved with you. So if you want me in your life, then you have to get help and get sober. And he did. And that's when we connected again. Um, and so, and he got 10 months of sobriety. And I thought this was going to be the love of my life. This was going to be the savior, the white knight coming in and rescuing me. And because I've had such turbulent relationships and really tough relationships. Um, in every single one of the men, I can't think of one that's still living today. All my exes are dead. How scary is that? Is that like another coincidence?
Yeah, it's a form of coincidence called seriality.
Yeah.
Um, the clearest seriality was the uh, the birthdays together, and their die around the same time, and each of them telling you stay away from these guys, and they're the closest people to you. Those
Yes.
that makes a series of two with three elements that connect the two of them. So it's a pretty strong serial coincidence that
Yeah.
with those two people.
And
Then
three of my love of my lives, the three loves that I had, Stephen, Potty, and Neil, all are dead. All dead. Oh, and Steve, another Steve. Yeah. I mean, when I think about my exes, they're like they're not around. It's like, what's that? What is that about? And then my own birth. was the result of my mother losing one of the twin boys. So my mother had my older sister who has there's a very interesting connection between death and me. Just it just is. So my mother had my older sister. 4 years later, she had the twin boys, Richard and Louis. And Louis was the phenom, the star of the twins. There's always one, and he was it. And Louis died very suddenly when they were almost 3 years old. She became pregnant with me a year later. I was a twin, and my twin was born a blue baby, and she never lived.
Holy bananas.
So,
That is
yeah,
a lot of death. Um, Now,
yeah,
for our audience, for just a moment,
yes,
I want to mention that we started off with an abandonment story, with a guy leaving his family and the son, um, and he didn't know why. The son didn't know why, and then the father shows up in an automobile accident in bad shape where the son sees him. Here was abandonment and then another form of abandonment. But we started off, and this is the point I want our audience to know. Our conversation today, Frankie's and mine, started off with abandonment theme. And now we've gotten into yet more themes of abandonment. And when therapy sessions begin, and sometimes when these interviews begin, the initial story begins to set the frame for what happens afterwards. And that's what we've got happening with Frankie. Abandonment coincidences.
yeah.
Well, that's our theme. You want to go for another one or try something else? I mean that when you hear when you hear me saying this back to you,
Yes.
reflecting it all back in the kind of like a succinct way,
Mm-hmm.
how does that impact you?
It's the truth. I mean, it's absolutely the truth.
And when you get the truth like that, that this is the movie of Frankie's life, or at least part
Yeah.
of the movie, what's going on in Frankie? What does it say about her?
Well, it's, I mean, I had a friend who said you should write a book about this and call it The Kiss of Death. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. But I've lost everybody near and dear. I've had so many deaths and so much tragedy in my life. And you expect it at this stage of my life, but it's been my whole life. You know, it's not like every year of my living, I've lost, you know, my brother died, my brother's wife died, then my brother died, then my father died when I was 13, and his brother was very close to me. He died around the same time that my brother died, and then my mother died. I mean, it was like all of these deaths on top of everything else. And then my older sister died a few years ago, and now her son is gone, who I mean, we were like this. We were very, very, very close. Um, I am probably one of the most resilient people you'll ever meet.
That's what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I am like a phoenix. I come back from the ashes. You can't keep me down. And I lost everything with this last relationship. Financial, I mean, I was wiped out because I believed in alcoholic and his delusions. Um, And it wasn't the first time I lost things as well, because it just wasn't. So at this stage in my life, I am re-establishing and creating and making, and I'm an artist. And I think that that ability to create is really what this is about.
I think it is too, and that's part of what I'm asking you about. And you're telling me that you're a phoenix who rises from the ashes,
Yeah.
and you've had a bunch of ashes to rise up from.
No kidding. No
Uh,
kidding. Yeah.
it's a life with some really poignant one coincidentally around the same time or series,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's been your life story is the death of people you care about and who care about you, some of them anyway, and but
Yes.
you really care about, and you have resilience, and art has helped you. And what I'd ask is sometimes when you have a death or multiple deaths, and you have to be resilient. You have to be a phoenix arising from the ashes. Synchronicities come in to be helpful, and I wonder what you can tell us about that.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know right now.
Yeah, not. It's. I was hoping you might because that's part of the way people are resilient is that when they get into trouble, and you've been in lots of
Yeah.
trouble.
Lots of
There's
trouble.
there's some things that come together in a surprising or helpful or both way.
Yeah.
That,
I don't know. I just know that um on my radio show I play the song Miracles, because I believe in them. And I believe in unexpected miracles. And I believe that um I will be able to, I know that I will persevere. I know it, as I know my name is Frankie Boyer. It's just what I do. And my late mother was like that as well, up until the end of her life, but she was like that as well. Very resilient, buried three children, her husband, the house burnt down. I mean, her sisters, I mean, the deaths are always around her as well. And I think that there are some patterns in families that just keep repeating. And in mine, it's about death
yeah, and it's also about resilience,
and about resilience.
and it's about miracles. Now,
Yes.
uh, sometimes synchronicities are called miracles. So tell us about miracles in your life.
Well, I just when you think that the darkest hour, this is a story from way back when. I mean, we're talking a long, long time ago. Dr. Wayne Dyer. Um, I'm going back a lot of years, and I had the good fortune of interviewing him numerous times, introducing him at conferences, picking him up when he was in Boston, taking him to places, and I just adored him. He was just the loveliest man. But when I first met, um, I was not in radio, and uh, I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and she said there is this. It was a rainy, horrible night. She said there is this man that is speaking in Rhode Island, and I really want to go, and I want you to go with me. And I'm like, ah, it's so rainy, crappy night. I don't want to schlep all the way to Rhode Island. And I moaned and groaned, and come on, please do me a favor, come with me. And I was opened up to a whole new world of possibilities. And I absolutely fell in love with Wayne Dyer that night. I mean, I just loved his teachings, the power of intention, all of it. And a week later, I was feeling like so down and so lost and so alone. And I got a knock on my door. I lived in an alley apartment at the time, which very funky apartment, and the door opens and there's this big manila envelope filled to the brim. And this man said, "This got delivered by mistake, but it's for you." And I said, "Okay, thank you." And I open it up, and Wayne had sent me every one of his books, a calendar, all kinds of goodies. And it was at that moment that my despair transformed into such joy and possibility. And that hope um, eludes me sometimes. And then I get it back. And then I'm so grateful that I do get it back. And sometimes we don't even realize the busyness and the tragedies that happen, and we become so cold and we don't realize that we have lost the hope. And
Yeah.
and then something will happen. And I had another experience at Rhythmia. My friend that died, my bestie, was a speaker at Rhythmia. Are you familiar with Rhythmia?
Let's hold on just a minute on that one, because I want to get to that story. Uh, but the story with Wayne Dyer is somewhat a, a typical coincidence where a friend says, "Go with me," and the person says, "I don't want to," and
Yeah.
but then the person, yeah, and then something happens in going, and that's a kind of everyday miracle kind of coincidence,
Yeah.
and you may not think of it as that, but it's that willing to take a chance on chance. Okay, my friend says, let's go. Okay, I think I'll take a chance on going. That marks the beginning of some remarkable experiences for people. And this is what I mean by the more resilient things is you took the offer and said okay, and then were so enamored with him and connected with him in such a way that somehow he got your address and could send a bunch of stuff for you, maybe somehow knowing. And this is intuitive, telepathic kind of thing
Yeah. Yeah.
that you could use this very much. And he had that ability to be able to
Yes,
see
he
what
did.
was needed.
Absolutely. But one of the best synchronicities in my life happened. And I can't believe I almost forgot about it until just now. I just can't even believe it. So I had this incredible mentor in my life after all of these tragedies with my brother and my mother and my sister-in-law and my uncle. Her name was Crosby Bonzel, and she was a very famous children's book author. And she started the And I Can Read series for Harper's. And Crosby got in the car one day and she said to me, "Sweetsies, you need to be a talk show host." And I said, "Crosby, you are absolutely crazy." And I was taking her to see her husband because he had early onset and tried to set their kitchen on fire one day when she was out. And she got in the car and she said, "You need to be a talk show host. And I am not kidding. And I'm not drinking. And that's what you need to be." And 2 weeks later, I had this meeting that I had to go to for this freelance gig that I was working on. And I walk into the meeting, and the meeting is over. And this gentleman said to me, who's now dead, the late Tom Starr from Radio America. Tom Starr said to me, "You need to be on the radio." And I said, "Wow, wow. What are you doing on Sunday morning?" I said, "Sleeping in alone." And he said, "No, no, no, I mean it. What are you doing on Sunday morning?" And I started doing radio that Sunday morning. And the guy that he partnered with me that morning said, you're a shrill. You've been doing this for years. And I said, no, I haven't ever done this. I've only been in advertising on the other side. I've never been in this. And that's, so I always say to people, you may not know what you want in life, but be aware of the signs because they are there. And this became my passion, but it was not my passion to begin with. And it was not even an idea that I had.
And so you had another serial coincidence,
Yes.
one, then two, telling you the same thing. And
And both Tom Starr and Crosby are both dead. She
well,
died. She died a few months after I got on the radio, and he died a few years.
one of the things I'm seeing about you as we talk is you sing the death song very well because you got a lot of them,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of them to sing. But the resilience part of you doesn't get as much attention in your own consciousness and in your own memory. It doesn't. And here you've got a friend saying, "Let's go to Rhode Island. Let's go to," yeah, and somebody else saying, and you should be on a talk show host." But one person's a friend again says that to you, and then the guy just says it, and not only that, says, "Sunday morning, you're on." Uh, and those are the kinds of miracles that you're talking about, people being able to experience, and you're encouraging people to be open to them, and getting them out of you in this interview is really hard. But we did it. We did it. And that's what I was trying to say to you and our audience, that when you're able to be resilient, that usually includes a,
Miracles.
pa- a miracle, a package from the Wayne Dwyer. So Wayne Dwyer, it's like that's there's a balance here
And of
that's
course,
in your.
Wayne is dead now too. So yeah.
Well, he'd had enough with his 8 kids and all the books he did and all the
Yeah.
influence he
Yeah.
had.
He was done. He was ready to leave. And yeah,
Yeah, he was ready to leave, and that's a little different maybe than some of the other
very
ones.
different. Very different.
He,
Yeah.
that's, but he's still gone. So the story of Frankie and abandonment is the banner story of your life. That's what we got
Yes.
here.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
but the subtitle is synchronicities, miracles happen, but I don't pay too much attention to them because I go to the really awful ones because those are the ones that grab your attention. But
Yeah.
here we're saying, okay, I don't know why I didn't even think of this, says Frankie. I mean, that's what's fun about doing some of this, and we're just talking, and here it comes. So I can say, can you think of any others?
Gosh, there have been so many. I've had so many serendipitous moments. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I really have. Yeah.
You have to have had, which is what I was trying to get
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
given the tragedies that you have experienced and the smile that you have still is
Still,
like,
I am so grateful for that. I wake up with an attitude of gratitude because I still look at the world half full, the glass half full. I had a son of a bitch friend. This guy, my mother was like Lucille Ball and Ethel. My mother had an Ethel, Pearl and Betty, and they were delicious. Just delicious. They were just delicious. And they would go in the car and get lost. And they did it intentionally because they wanted to have the element of surprise of what they were going to find and what flea market and what auction. And, they both loved antiquing and they just had so much fun together and they did everything together. And Pearl had had a son. And um, when she died, right before she died, she said to me, please make sure and take care of him. Please, I just need you to make sure He needs somebody. And I said, okay, of course I would do that. Of course, of course. So he has anal cancer, diagnosed with anal cancer. And he didn't want to fight. I said, this is not a death sentence today. This is not a death sentence. This is like 6 years ago. I said, this is not a death sentence. You will be able to find a cure. I don't want to. I'm going to just go and the end of his life, he started smoking again. He was just a prick. His bipolar disorder was rampant. He was nasty. I mean, it was hell for me. I was the only one that could stand the stench in the apartment. It was horrible. Hospice. I mean, it was a big, disgusting mess. And when he died, I was so grateful for who I am that no matter what, the resilience and the ability to look at having hope in my heart was just even more powerful to me.
That's a wonderful or encouragement of the hope that you already had to have with all the deaths
Yeah.
preceding.
Yeah.
The story of the two friends um, illustrates another form of increasing meaningful coincidences. The way you said it was perfect. They loved getting lost to see what would happen. And it's getting lost that is when things are like not regular. And you've had so many of those where things are
Yeah.
not going the way they're supposed to. And they manufactured their coincidences by getting lost, which is one of my particular advice pieces to people is to get lost. And you will find yourself, or you'll find some aspect of yourself.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
were doing, and you have been lost lots of times, Frankie Boyer, lost in maybe in space, but certainly in relationships and alone. And I bet there are other instances of a package like from Wayne Dyer showing up at your door
Oh,
that
absolutely. Yes. The check that came when I didn't know what I was going to get and the unexpected, lottery ticket for $900 and, all of those things. Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
tell us a few more of those?
You know, there was the friend that died, my soul sister Cheryl. We were part of there were four of us, five altogether. Linda, Cheryl, me, no, four of us. Me, Frankie, Linda, Cheryl, and Adria. And the four of us got this book called Manifesting Matisse. And we would meet. And back then there was no Zoom. So we did a conference call and we would meet once a week. And we called ourselves the MMMs, the Magnificent Manifesting Mavens. And every week we just were blown away by the intention of creating and manifesting in our lives. Adria needed to sell her condo full cash and she wanted all of the things to be sold and it happened and Cheryl needed this and Linda needed that and we created miracles. We created and manifested all kinds of things. And I truly believe that that's what keeps me going every day is that my self-care, how I take care of me, the vitamins, the walking, the meditation. Um, I use a beamer. I have a hydrogen machine. I'm into all kinds of things. And what I have been trying to do is to have the possibilities that there's always that that end, that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
And with a lot of work sometimes, as you're having to do now,
With a
um,
lot of work. Yeah. Yeah.
you make it okay because you can believe it's okay. Like the guy with the anal cancer, you knew he could beat it, or at least could give it a good
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
So you have to have the intention, and you got
That's
that
right.
from Wayne Dyer. Helped you strengthen your ability to have intentions. What strikes me as we begin to wrap up today, Frankie, is how your life is a sine wave. It just it goes down first. I mean, it's the dips, it's the downs that are more prominent in your experience because they're awful. But then you've got the hope that gets you to a better place, more fun, more happiness, and then another loss. And you've had that all through your life,
Yeah.
and your mother did too. And somehow with her humor and other characteristics helped you do what you're doing with yourself now.
I mean, I never thought that I would ever be on the radio for as long as I have been. But I
How long have you been on the radio?
it's almost 25 years. Yeah. Yeah. But I really believe what I try to do every single day is allow people to tell their stories, because our stories are so important, as you know, and that there's hope. It's just so important to me that people know that.
And you help convey that to them.
Yes.
And in a way, I'm trying to do something similar with you. Not that you need it that much, but I just wanted to, in this time, as you tell your story, to clarify that you have lots of downs, but things happen. We'll call them serendipities, synchronicities, coincidences. And to me, one of the most beautiful ones is the Wayne Dyer sending you the package. And then another beautiful one is, hey, you got to be in radio, baby. You got to be in radio. I'm saying it with the cigar in the old 30s version. Um, and some guy gets you on the show on a Sunday morning, and there you are for 25 years. And there are more of those, which we're not going to have
Yes.
time to get into.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was not easy getting them out of you today. It wasn't. uh, yeah, because your story is mostly about death, because it's so
Yeah.
prominent.
Yeah. But I try, you know, I try not to be a morbid person, and I don't think I
You're
am at this
not. You're
point.
not. You're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
You're not a
Because
morbid. You,
people think you're so upbeat and you're so, you just have such a great time with life. You're the life of the party. Last night I had two events, and someone said you really are a hot ticket, you really are. And so when people hear that side of what's happened, they're like, wow, I never would have guessed that. Never would have guessed it.
there's a lot of different martial arts, Aikido being one of them, where you use the power of your opponent against the opponent. And what you have done is turn death into positives time and time again.
Again. Yeah.
And you reinforce that with yourself as you reinforce it with your wonderful audience who deeply appreciate you and your energy and your hopefulness. You wouldn't be you without having all those many deaths and losses.
Probably not. Yeah. 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 I'm always upbeat though. I know that people do not want to tune into, you know, they don't want to hear about your own sorrow. I know that I'm here to entertain and the show goes on. And there have been days that I don't know how I've gotten through it, but I do.
And you're doing that with your life, and you're doing
Yes,
that, and you get through it somehow.
I
I
do.
mean,
I
just
do.
thinking of you in that apartment in the alley with just really, really down on
Yeah,
yourself. You
yeah,
got a big, big package of hope delivered right to your door, and
absolutely.
that's
And
uh,
I got to
uh,
share that with Wayne when I became a radio talk show host doing holistic health. Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and Marianne Williamson and all of that whole crew and the late Suzanne Summers, they were all on my they've all been on my show. So I was able to that was just for me such a spectacular moment to connect with Wayne.
spectacular, and with the others too. And
Oh,
I
absolutely. Yeah.
I thank you for having me on your show a couple of times now, maybe
Yeah.
three. And
Yeah.
I very much appreciate that and appreciate you. And I kind of have had an interesting, I'll say, good experience trying to get the positive out of your personal life. Um, and it's there, and the audience feels it. But we needed to talk about the series of deaths. That's a form of coincidence, in, as we were talking about. And you've bounced away from that. I say taking the energy of the bad of the death, the loss, and turned it into hope. And that's why you're on this radio so much, because people can feel it from you, the
Yes,
hope.
it's authentic. It's authentic.
It's authentic. And I'll say that's authentic because otherwise you wouldn't be on the radio. You wouldn't be doing much. You would be like a lot of people. No, you take it and bounce up and stay
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my hat's off to you,
Thank
Frankie, on
you.
that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So thank you very much for sharing yourself on my show. Uh, and
Thanks for having me.
uh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure, and also trying to get you to get to the positive had not been easy, and I'm used to doing that. So
Yeah.
thank you for being you and telling us your stories.
Thank you.